Hey Defenders, welcome back. In this video, I want to show you guys how we can install the latest release of Wazuh, which is their 4.4 branch. And apologies for the lack of videos over the last month. As you can tell, I have recently moved and it was definitely a lot more work than I had originally anticipated. So I appreciate you guys' patience. I also want to use this video to address some of the common occurrences and issues that I've seen with you guys' own installations that will hopefully make things a little more clear for you guys, so you guys can get your own Wazuh stack as well as incorporated with Graylog within your own environments. So let's go ahead and jump into it. A few notable mentions with the latest Wazuh release. They now do support IPv6. They have also included some new vulnerability detection. And perhaps the biggest change is the Wazuh indexer and the Wazuh dashboard have now been bumped to OpenSearch version 2.4.1, which is really nice to see. They were running on an older version of OpenSearch, so it is nice to see that they have now bumped up to a later release. One big change I want to note that Graylog must be on version 5 or above, or else it is not compatible with OpenSearch versions 2.x. So if you are doing an upgrade, make sure you also upgrade Graylog to the 5.x release, or there's going to be incompatibility issues. So for the install order that I'm going to take throughout this video, I'm first going to install the Wazuh indexer, the Wazuh dashboard, Graylog, and then the Wazuh manager. I'm not going to go into depth in terms of what these tools are providing and how they fit into the stack. I've also linked to other blog posts that we've done which go into further detail. So if you're looking to understand kind of what tools are at play and why we're incorporating them into the stack, make sure you check out these blog posts, because in this video, I'm just going to go into the install itself. So let's first go ahead and install our Wazuh indexer. First going to install some prereqs for the Wazuh indexer. And once that has been installed, we're going to go ahead and grab the GPG key and add the Wazuh repository so that we can actually download the Wazuh packages. And curl was not found. Let me go ahead and install that real quick. Do make sure you do have curl installed. All right, and then we're going to run this echo command to go ahead and get the repository. And let's run our apt-get update, and then we're going to go ahead and install the Wazuh indexer. All right, so our Wazuh indexer has now been installed. I'll go ahead and clear that out. Now we're going to deploy our certificates. And I think this is where a lot of you have run into troubles, where you try to connect Graylog to the Wazuh indexer and you'll get an error message saying like hostname not verified. And that will pertain to how you guys were creating the certificate. So Wazuh does provide a Wazuh search tool.sh script. However, I've tweaked the script so that it creates the proper SAN that you guys will need to validate so that Graylog will trust the Wazuh indexer. So we're going to go ahead and run this wget, and we're going to go ahead and grab that script, and then we're going to grab our config file. So I'm going to cd into temp, and I'll go ahead and open this config.yaml file. And here we are going to input the host name and the IP address of your Wazuh indexer. And I'm going to follow the same naming convention and IP addressing below for my other two entries here. I'm using this server to install the indexer, dashboard, manager, and Graylog. So I'm going to point all of these guys to the same, and I'll put my IP address there. Okay, that looks good. So we're going to go ahead and save that file off. And now we're going to go ahead and run the script. And now that the script has run, we now see our Wazuh certificates directory. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in here, list this out, and make sure that everything was created appropriately. So we have our root CA being generated. We have our admin key, which we'll need for running some of the OpenSearch operations that we'll do here in a bit. And then we also have the hostname cert and key for us being generated. So that's great. So it looks like it's running well. What we also want to verify is that the CN of our hostname certificate is what we expect it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this OpenSSL command, and you'll likely need to replace the hostname.pem. You'll go ahead and configure that to be your own. And when I run that command, we'll see that our CN, let me actually kind of expand that out a little bit. So running that command, we see that our CN of our certificate is set to Wazuh indexer.SOCFortress.demo. And then we also see our subject alternative name. Now, this is what was more than likely causing you guys issues when trying to connect Graylog to your Wazuh indexer. By default, the Wazuh script only includes the IP address as a SAN. So what I've modified in the script is take the host name variable that we set within the config.yaml file to also create a SAN, a DNS SAN that we have here for the hostname of our Wazuh indexer. So just double check to make sure that that was created accurately. And then I'm going to go ahead and set an environment variable of node name to the hostname of my Wazuh indexer, so that it will make these following commands of copying the certs into the Wazuh indexer certificate directory a lot faster. So I'll go ahead and copy these commands out. You should be able to just copy these guys. Now navigate into my Etsy Wazuh indexer search. Go ahead and ls that all out, and that all looks good. Now let's go ahead and open our opensearch.yaml file, and we are going to make the appropriate changes. I'm going to go ahead and blow all of this away and just copy what we have within the blog post. And I'll run through some things here in a sec. So for my node name, you've seen that I have changed it to the host name of my Wazuh indexer. My initial master nodes is going to be that. I've changed my cluster name to SOCFortress_demo. My discovery seed host is also set to the host name of my Wazuh indexer. And another change I want to add is that we have also commented out this compatibility override. This is needed for Graylog to be able to, so that within Graylog's web UI, you can run searches on your data that's stored within the Wazuh indexer. So go ahead and save that file out. I'm going to make some tweaks here to enable the memory locking. So first thing, make sure your bootstrap memory lock is set to true, which is what we've got here. We need to edit the service of the Wazuh indexer itself by adding this limit memlock equal to infinity under the service block here. I'll go ahead and save and exit that out. And now we need to set our JVM options to 50% of the total memory, which this box has about 8 gigs of memory. I'm going to actually set it, since this is just running on a hypervisor here at my house, which doesn't have the best performance. I'm just going to set this to 2 gigs. All right, so with everything set, we are now ready to start the Wazuh indexer service. So I'll go ahead and copy those commands, and we will see our Wazuh indexer service start up. All right, so we now should have our Wazuh indexer start up. If we run a status Wazuh indexer, we see it's running and active. We can also tail the log file. We'll go into var log, Wazuh indexer, and then it will be the cluster name.log. So you see we got some, so you can see it's running, but we also have a lot of errors, and that's because we need to initialize the cluster. So what we're going to do is exit out of this log file. We're going to run this indexer security init.sh script that will connect to our Elasticsearch cluster and run the appropriate initialization. So we see everything came back with a success. If we tail our log file again, we now see that our node has been initialized. If you are doing a cluster of Wazuh indexers, this only has to be ran once. So get all of your Wazuh indexers clustered together and then run this script, and you only need to do it one time. All right, now with our Wazuh indexer installed, let's go ahead and install the Wazuh dashboard. So we're going to install a few more prereqs here. That's going to go off and do its thing. And then I'm going to go ahead and run the install for the Wazuh dashboard. All right, so we got that installed. Let's go ahead and create our certificates directory. Now I'm going to copy these guys over. And I'll go ahead and cd into our Wazuh dashboard. And let me go into certs. And I'll let this out and make sure everything looks good. It's okay. It all looks good. So now let's go ahead and edit our Let's go ahead now and edit the OpenSearch dashboards.yaml file. And I'm just going to blow this away and copy what I have here. And you will, of course, need to just change the OpenSearch hosts that you will be pointing to. So that will just need to reflect the correct host name. All right, so I've got that saved. Now let's go ahead and start the Wazuh dashboard service. Looks like it's started. I'll go ahead and run watch. If I could type. And make sure that it looks to be running. Okay, that all looks good. So go ahead and clear that out. Now let's actually run the Wazuh passwords tool to update the default password. So I'll go ahead and just copy this command here, paste that in there. This guy's going to run, and then it's going to output the the admin password, the Kibana server password, and then some other default user account passwords that are also changed. So I do recommend copying all these down and saving them in a password manager. And what we're now going to do, so we have our admin password, which we're going to use to log into the web UI in a sec. And then what we need to do is have the Wazuh dashboard service use our Kibana server password. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the Kibana server password. Let me just throw that into Notepad. Off to the side. Now I'm going to copy this echo command. I'm going to paste that in there. Then I'm going to replace where we have Kibana server password. And that is going to be equal to the value that is the Kibana server. So make sure you are getting the appropriate value there. We'll go ahead and run that. And now let's restart the Wazuh dashboard service. And if I run my watch command again, we should see it start up and connect to the Wazuh indexer cluster. And we see our plugins are starting to load, so that's a good sign. Again, my hypervisor, the server that's running these VMs is not the most performant, so some of these things are going to take a while. But if we tail our indexer log, okay, we see that some plugins are getting set up, so that looks good. Let me run a nets down and see if the port's listening yet. Okay, it is. So let's now go ahead and connect to the Wazuh dashboard web UI here. And I'm just going to throw in the IP address rather than updating DNS records. All right, and we are now logged into our Wazuh dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and log in with the admin password, and we will load the web UI. Now, you'll first get an error, no API available, because the Wazuh dashboard connects to the Wazuh manager via the Wazuh manager's API, but we don't have our Wazuh manager up yet. So we can disregard that for the time being. Let's first go into security. I'm going to create a new internal user for our Graylog box. So I'm just going to call this Graylog. I'm going to give it a password of please subscribe and a password of please subscribe. Go ahead and give it a back end role of admin. Graylog is going to need to create indexes, it's going to need to write indexes, it's going to need to read indexes. And once we go ahead and create that, we are now ready to proceed to the Graylog installation. Again, please note, Graylog must be on version 5.x or above, or else you will have incompatibility issues. So I'm probably beating a dead horse, but I want to make sure that you guys understand that, or else you will have issues. So we're first going to go ahead and install MongoDB. So I'm going to just copy those series of commands there. What do we have here? Sudo command not found. All right, let me go ahead and install sudo. And let me go ahead and run that series of commands again. Cool, and now we are installing MongoDB, which is a requirement for Graylog. So do make sure you don't skip that step. And now once this runs, we are then going to install Graylog. Again, I've made a note just so you guys are aware. And all right, we got MongoDB installed. Let me just make sure it's running. Was it MongoD, I think? Yep. Okay, cool. That all looks good. Now let's go ahead and install Graylog by just copying these series of commands here. And you'll note we are grabbing the Graylog 5.0 repository. All right, cool. And we now have Graylog installed. I'm first going to use this pwgen command, and I may not have it. To create a password secret. I'm going to go ahead and copy that value. I'm going to go ahead and open the Graylog server.conf file. I'm going to scroll down to our password secret and paste that value there. Save that off. Now let's go ahead and create our root password. And this prompt is going to ask us to do enter a password, and I'll just say, please subscribe. And it's going to output the hash value for us. Open up our server.conf file again. Go to root password SHA-2. Go ahead and paste that in there. Save and exit out. Now let's input the connection to our Wazuh indexer. Go ahead and copy the host name that I use there. Open this guy back up. Uncomment that. And now I'm going to input our connection to our Wazuh indexer. So I'm going to go ahead and say Wazuh indexer, or the host name for our Wazuh indexer, our port. Let me blow the rest of that away. We're using HTTPS. My username is going to be Graylog, and then we have please subscribe. All right, I'll go ahead and save that off, and we are good with our server.conf file for our Graylog box. Now we are going to need to import the root CA that we use to generate the Wazuh indexer certificates into Graylog's Java key store, or else Graylog is not going to trust the Wazuh indexer. So I'm first going to run this command to copy the ca.certs. Oh, I need to first create our search directory. Go ahead and clear that out. Yeah, I don't have that. Make their certs. Run that command again. So now we have, if I go into certs, we should see our CA certs. Okay, cool. That looks good. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy the rootca.pem file from the Wazuh indexer certs directory into our etc Graylog server search directory. So I'm going to go ahead and say etc Wazuh indexer certs rootca, and that's going to go into Graylog server certs. So copy that, list it out. Okay, that looks good. We don't need to worry about changing any permissions or ownership there. Now let's go ahead and run this command to add it to Graylog's Java key store. So running that command, it'll ask, do you want to trust the certificate? So we are going to say yes, and we have certificate was added to the key store. So now let's go ahead and create our default Graylog-server file. Go ahead and open that up. I'm just going to blow all that away and copy what we have here. Really, the only change that we're doing here is modifying the Java options to point to our new trust store that we're using, and also using the trust store password of change it, which we set here when we imported the root CA into the Java key store. So if you want to change your key store password, which I do recommend in a production environment, you would just modify that value there. All right, so let's go ahead and save this off. Now we need to, of course, say systemctl start Graylog server. So go ahead and copy that value here. Now I can go ahead and tail var log Graylog server.log. And we now see Elasticsearch cluster is running, OpenSearch version 2.6. So we know our authentication worked, and Graylog is now started up. Again, if you do see hostname not verified, do make sure that your open SSL command that we ran earlier has a SAN entry of your hostname that you're using for your Wazuh indexer. So again, I can run that real quick. What was that? Wazuh certificates. Come on. So again, running that, we see we have under our subject alternative name, we have a hostname entry that matches the same hostname that we're instructing Graylog to connect to within the Elasticsearch host config variable that we set. So very important. I believe that's been the bulk of the issue that you guys have been running into doing your own deployments. So that all looks good. Let's just make sure we can connect to Graylog's web UI, which I'm just using for this demo. I do recommend HTTPS, of course, in a production environment. Is it not 9,000? Oh, I configured it to just be on the loopback. Let me tweak that. I'm going to go ahead and change my bind address here to 0.0.0.0. Run a restart. And all right, cool. We got our Graylog web UI up. Password is going to be admin, or sorry, username is going to be admin. Then our password of please subscribe. And all right, we are now logged into Graylog. If I expand this out, we can disregard that. We don't care about that for now. But we also see that our Elasticsearch cluster is green. So that's all looking good. Now let's go ahead and install the Wazuh manager. Again, I'm going to do this on the same box that I've deployed everything else. I'm going to go ahead and copy these commands here. Wait, oh, actually, I probably didn't need to do that because I already had all those repos. And I'm going to install the Wazuh manager service. And then I'm going to run a daemon reload, enable the service, and then start it. I do have other videos and blogs detailing like configuring my recommendations for configuring the Wazuh manager, which I'm not going to go into in this video. So feel free to check those out. And then also in our deployment, since we use Graylog to forward our events to the Wazuh indexer, I'm going to install Fluent. I'm going to install FluentBit, which is what we use to send the alerts.json file that the Wazuh manager is writing alerts to the Graylog host. Once this actually finishes installing, as you can tell, I don't have SSDs on the server that's running my VM, so disk operations are very slow. And if you are deploying this stack within a production environment, use SSDs. Do not use spinning disks. You are not going to get good IOPS. And it's going to lead to a lot of instability with your SIEM stack. All right, so we've got that installed. I'm going to go ahead and clear that out. Run this command to grab and install FluentBit. And let me just go ahead and quickly do a input real quick so I can show you guys. Go raw TCP, let's call it Wazuh demo. I'm using my port of 5555. Gonna go ahead and launch that. That should start running. Okay, good. Now on my Wazuh end, I'm going to open up our etc fluentbit.conf file. I'm gonna go ahead and blow all this away. And I'm going to copy the contents there. Modify my port to the one of the input I just created, which is 5555. Let me get the host. Let me get the host name. And I'm going to input that there. And now I'm going to go ahead and enable and start FluentBit, and then we should see a connection come into here. And let me just duplicate an SSH session so that we should see the Wazuh manager send an event to our Graylog input. And yeah, here we go. So we see that we got some data in. If I select show receive messages, we see our SSH login attempts with an authentication of success detailed here. Now, in other blog posts, especially in part 5, we detailed how we can configure Graylog extractors to parse through the JSON that we get from our Wazuh manager, which I'm not going to go over in this video. Again, in this video, I just show you guys some of the changes that we'll need to make when installing the Wazuh version 4.4 release, and hopefully address some of the common issues that you guys have been having. So that's going to be it for today's video. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one.